Dr. Hyun pressed her face against the cold observation window of the research ship New Seoul. The stars looked different today. They seemed to flicker and dance in ways that made her stomach turn. Something was coming through deep space, and it was bigger than anything humanity had ever seen. The alarm bells rang throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors as crew members ran to their stations. Captain Lee's voice echoed from the speakers, calm but serious. "All hands to emergency positions. We have detected an unknown entity approaching our sector." Hyun rushed to her laboratory where the long-range sensors displayed information that made no sense. The readings showed something the size of a small moon moving through space at impossible speeds. But this was not a moon or asteroid. The energy signatures were completely alien. "Hyun, you need to see this," called Sue from the communication station. Her voice shook with fear. Sue had worked in deep space for 10 years and nothing usually scared her. Hyun hurried to the communication center. On the main screen, a message played from the Outer Rim territories. The image was broken and filled with static, but she could see a man in a military uniform. His face was pale and his eyes were wide with terror. "This is General Park from the defense station at Kepler 442. The entity has consumed 3 worlds in our sector. I repeat, 3 entire planets are gone. The creature just opened its mouth and swallowed them whole. Nothing remains, not even space dust." The message cut to another transmission. This time it showed a woman holding a small child. Behind them, the sky was filled with a strange golden light. "Please, someone help us. Our planet is shaking, the oceans are rising, we can see it in the sky. It looks like a giant lion made of stars. Its mane is full of galaxies. We don't have much time left." The transmission ended in static. Then came another voice, this one from a different world. "Day 3 of the approach. The entity is beautiful and terrible. Its eyes are like twin suns. When it breathes, solar winds push our ships away. The evacuation is failing. Too many people, not enough ships. Tell our families we tried to run, but it's too fast." Hyun watched in horror as transmission after transmission came through. Each one told the same story. A massive creature that looked like a cosmic lion was moving from world to world, eating entire planets. Not just the surface, but the whole planet, leaving empty space where worlds used to be. "How is this possible?" whispered Jin, the ship's engineer. He stood behind them, his tools forgotten in his hands. "Nothing can eat a planet. The mass alone would be impossible to swallow." Captain Lee entered the communication center. His face was grim. "I just received orders from Earth Defense Council. All civilian ships are to evacuate the solar system immediately. This thing is heading our way." "What about us?" asked Sue. "Are we leaving too?" "No," Lee replied. "Command wants us to stay and study it. We're the only research vessel in this sector with the right equipment." Hyun felt her heart race. Study it? How could they study something that ate worlds? But she was a scientist. This was what she had trained for her whole life, even if it might be her last mission. The next few hours passed quickly. The crew prepared the ship for what might be their final assignment. Jin worked on the engines, making sure they could escape quickly if needed. Sue monitored all communication channels, recording every message from the doomed worlds. Captain Lee coordinated with Earth Command, sending regular updates. Hyun focused on the sensor data. She studied every reading, every energy signature, every piece of information about the approaching entity. What she found was both fascinating and terrifying. The creature was not just moving randomly through space. It had a pattern. It would approach a world slowly, almost carefully. The sensors showed it would orbit each planet for exactly 6 hours before consuming it. During those 6 hours, it seemed to be studying the world below. "It's intelligent," Hyun announced to the bridge crew. "This isn't just some space monster following instinct, it thinks about what it's doing." "What do you mean?" asked Captain Lee. "Look at these movement patterns. It doesn't just attack randomly. It observes each world first, like it's deciding something. And look here." She pointed to the energy readings. "Its brain activity increases right before it feeds. It's making conscious decisions. This discovery changed everything. If the entity was intelligent, maybe they could communicate with it. Maybe they could understand why it was destroying worlds. Maybe they could even stop it. But first, they had to survive its approach to Earth. The warning came 18 hours later. Long-range sensors detected the entity entering the outer edge of the solar system. It moved past Pluto without stopping, then Neptune, then Uranus. Each time it paused briefly as if considering these worlds, then continued inward. When it reached Jupiter, it stopped. The creature was massive beyond imagination. Through the telescopes, they could see its true form. It did look like a lion, but made of cosmic energy and stardust. Its mane flowed like solar wind, and within that mane, tiny galaxies spun and danced. Its eyes were indeed like twin suns, burning with ancient light. But something was different about its behavior. Instead of the 6-hour pattern it had followed, with other worlds it stayed near Jupiter for 2 full days. It seemed to be waiting for something. "Why isn't it moving toward Earth?" asked Sue. "All the other planets it destroyed immediately." Hyun studied the readings carefully. The entity's energy patterns were different here. Instead of the focused hunting behavior they had observed before, it seemed almost confused. Its brain activity was higher than ever, but scattered, like it was thinking about many things at once. "I think it's trying to decide," she said finally. For the first time, it's not sure what to do. "Decide what?" asked Captain Lee. "Whether to eat us or not." The bridge fell silent. Outside the windows, Jupiter hung in space like a giant orange ball. Somewhere near it, invisible to their eyes but clear on their sensors, waited the creature that had already destroyed 3 worlds. And now it was thinking about Earth. Dr. Hyun realized that humanity's survival might depend on understanding what was going through the mind of a cosmic predator. She had studied alien life forms her entire career, but nothing had prepared her for this. The devourer had arrived, and it was deciding humanity's fate. Dr. Hyun had not slept for 3 days. She sat in her laboratory surrounded by screens showing data about the creature near Jupiter. The entity had been waiting there for almost a week now, and she was determined to understand why. "Hyun, you need to rest," said Captain Lee as he entered the lab. "You can't solve this if you collapse from exhaustion." "I'm close to something," she replied, not looking away from her work. "The creature's energy patterns change every few hours. It's like it's having conversations with itself." Captain Lee sat down beside her. "What kind of conversations?" "I think it's lonely," Hyun said quietly. "Look at these brain scans. The activity spikes happen in the same regions where humans experience sadness and isolation. This thing has been alone in space for a very long time." Before Captain Lee could respond, Sue's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we're receiving strange signals from the entity. They're not radio waves. Jin thinks they might be emotional frequencies." They hurried to the communication center where Jin was working with equipment he had modified himself. The young engineer looked excited and nervous at the same time. "I was running diagnostics on our emotional resonance detectors," Jin explained. "They're usually used to study crew mental health on long missions, but I started picking up massive signals from the direction of the creature." "What kind of signals?" asked Hyun. "Sadness. Incredible, overwhelming sadness, and something else. It feels like searching, like it's looking for something it lost a long time ago." Hyun felt her heart race. This was the breakthrough she had been hoping for. "Can we send signals back?" "Maybe," said Jin. "But we would need to generate emotional frequencies strong enough to reach across space. That would require everyone on the ship to focus their feelings at the same time." Captain Lee looked concerned. "Is it safe?" "I don't know," Jin admitted. "We would be opening our minds to something that eats planets." Hyun made a decision that would change everything. "We have to try. If this creature is intelligent and lonely, maybe we can communicate with it. Maybe we can understand what it wants." The next few hours were spent preparing for the most unusual experiment in human history. The crew gathered in the main hall of the ship. Jin had set up emotional amplifiers throughout the room, Everyone held hands in a large circle. Focus on peaceful thoughts, Hyun instructed. Think about home, about the people you love, about hope. We need to show this creature that we're not afraid, that we want to understand. They closed their eyes and concentrated. The emotional amplifiers hummed with energy. Through the ship's sensors, they could detect their combined feelings being broadcast toward the entity near Jupiter. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the ship's hull began to vibrate gently. The creature was responding. The response came not as words, but as images and feelings flooding their minds. They saw vast empty spaces between stars. They felt loneliness so deep it seemed to go on forever. They experienced the memory of something beautiful being destroyed, leaving only emptiness behind. It's showing us its past, whispered Sue, tears running down her face. The images continued. They saw the creature's home, a galaxy filled with beings like itself. They were not individuals, but part of a huge family consciousness that shared thoughts and feelings across light years. They lived in harmony, their minds connected in ways humans could barely imagine. Then came disaster. The galaxy began to die. Stars went out one by one. The family consciousness grew smaller as its members faded away. Finally, only one remained, alone in the darkness. That's our creature, said Hyun. It's the last survivor of an entire galactic civilization. The final images showed the creature's long journey through space. It had searched for thousands of years, trying to find others like its lost family. But every world it found was different. The beings there could not share consciousness the way its people had. In desperation, it began consuming worlds, hoping to find the connection it craved. But eating civilizations only made it lonelier. The minds it absorbed could never replace what it had lost. It doesn't want to destroy us, Hyun realized. It's looking for family. The emotional connection ended, leaving the crew exhausted but enlightened. They now understood that the creature near Jupiter was not evil. It was simply the loneliest being in the universe. Over the following days, they established regular communication with the entity. Each session revealed more about its nature. It called itself something that translated roughly as the last voice. It had been traveling for so long that it had forgotten what its original name had been. The creature shared its knowledge of the cosmos. It had seen the birth and death of countless stars. It knew the secrets of space and time. But all this wisdom meant nothing without someone to share it with. Why hasn't it eaten Earth yet? Asked Captain Lee during one of their planning sessions. Because we're different, Hyun explained. Every other species it encountered either ran away or tried to fight it. We're the first ones to try to understand it. I think it's curious about us. Day, the ship's cultural expert, had been studying the creature's memories. In all its travels, it has never encountered a species like humans. We form emotional bonds with beings completely different from ourselves. We adopt stray animals, care for orphans, help strangers. This creature has never seen anything like human compassion. This gave Hyun an idea that seemed crazy but might save Earth. Instead of trying to fight the creature or convince it to leave, what if they offered it something it had never experienced before? What if they offered it a family? It's been searching for its lost civilization for thousands of years, she told the crew. But maybe what it really needs is not to find what it lost, but to discover something new. Captain Lee was skeptical. You want to adopt a planet-eating cosmic entity? Not adopt, Hyun corrected. Befriend. Show it that connection doesn't require consuming others. Teach it about human relationships based on choice and care rather than absorption. It was the most dangerous gamble in human history. But as they watched Earth growing closer on their screens, they knew they had to try something unprecedented. The last voice was waiting for an answer from humanity, and Dr. Hyun was about to give it one. Dr. Hyun stood in the shuttle bay, looking at the small ship that would either save humanity or end her life. The shuttle was barely the size of a house compared to the cosmic entity waiting near Jupiter, but it was her only way to reach the creature she now thought of as the last voice. This is insane, said Captain Lee for the 10th time. You're flying directly into the mouth of something that eats worlds. It won't hurt me, Hyun replied, though she wasn't entirely sure herself. We've been communicating for days. It knows I'm coming. It's curious about what I want to do. Jin finished the final checks on the shuttle. The emotional amplifiers are installed. You'll be able to broadcast your feelings directly to the creature when you get close enough. But Hyun, if something goes wrong, then tell Earth what we learned, she said simply. Tell them that the last voice isn't evil, it's just lost. The crew gathered to see her off. Sue hugged her tightly. Come back to us. I will, Hyun promised, hoping it was true. The shuttle left the new Seoul and began its journey toward Jupiter. As Hyun flew through space, she could see the last voice waiting in the distance. Even from far away, it was magnificent and terrifying. Its mane of cosmic energy flowed like a river of stars. Its eyes burned with the light of twin suns. As she got closer, she felt the creature's presence pressing against her mind. It was not trying to hurt her, but its sheer size and age made her feel like a tiny insect approaching a mountain. The last voice spoke to her without words, its thoughts flowing directly into her consciousness. Small being, you come to me willingly. Others have only approached in fear or anger. Why do you not flee? Hyun activated the emotional amplifiers and opened her mind completely. Instead of trying to speak, she shared her feelings directly with the creature. She showed it what she had learned about loneliness from her own life. As a child, she had moved frequently because of her parents' work. She knew what it felt like to be the outsider, always looking for connection but never finding it in the same way others did. But she also shared something more important. She showed the last voice what she had discovered about human nature. Humans did not just connect with their own species. They formed bonds with anything that needed care. They rescued injured birds, adopted abandoned pets, cared for orphaned animals from completely different species. We don't need to understand something to love it, she projected to the creature. We just need to see that it's alone and needs help. The last voice was silent for a long moment. When it responded, Hyun could feel its confusion. I do not understand. I have consumed many worlds, destroyed countless civilizations. Why would you offer care to something that has caused such harm? Hyun thought of her grandmother, who had always fed stray cats even though they sometimes scratched her. She remembered her father, who had rescued an injured bird and nursed it back to health even though it bit him every day. She recalled her own choice to become a xenobiologist because she wanted to understand alien life, not destroy it. Because that's what we do, she transmitted. When we see something hungry, we feed it. When we see something hurt, we try to heal it. When we see something alone, we offer companionship. It doesn't matter if it's dangerous or if it has hurt others before. What matters is that it needs help now. The last voice moved closer to her shuttle. Hyun could feel its ancient sadness washing over her like ocean waves. The loneliness was so deep and vast that it took her breath away. This creature had been alone for longer than human civilization had existed. But I am not like the creatures you care for, the last voice said. I am not a small injured animal. I have the power to destroy worlds. I have already destroyed worlds. I know, Hyun replied. But destruction came from your pain, not from evil. You were searching for connection in the only way you knew how. You consumed worlds because you thought absorption was the same as belonging. But it's not. She shared more of her memories, the warm feeling of her first friendship, made not through conquest but through shared interests. The joy of working with her research team, each person different, but all united in their curiosity about the universe. The love she felt for her family, chosen not born from obligation but from genuine care. True connection doesn't require consuming the other, she projected. It requires understanding that you can be close to someone while still being separate. You can care for someone without absorbing them. The last voice was quiet for so long that Hyun began to worry she had offended it. Then it spoke again, and she could hear wonder in its mental voice. Show me, it said. Hyun took a deep breath and made the most dangerous decision of her life. She turned off all the shuttle's shields and opened her mind completely to the creature. She offered herself not as food to be consumed, but as a friend to be known. Instead of trying to absorb her memories and experiences, the last voice learned to simply observe them. It watched her thoughts like someone looking through a window, seeing but not taking. For the first time in its existence, the creature experienced companionship without consumption. It could know Hyun's thoughts without erasing her individuality. It could share her emotions without stealing them. "This is what you call friendship," the last voice said with amazement. "Yes," Hyun replied. "This is what we've been trying to show you." The cosmic entity began to change. Its frantic, hungry energy calmed. The chaotic swirling of its mane slowed to a gentle flow. The burning intensity of its eyes softened to a warm glow. For hours, they shared consciousness while remaining separate. The last voice learned about human relationships, about love that didn't require possession, about families that formed through choice rather than biology. In return, it shared its knowledge of the cosmos, its memories of beauty from across the galaxy, its understanding of forces beyond human imagination. When the sharing ended, both beings were transformed. The last voice had learned that it didn't need to consume others to feel connected, and Hyun had experienced the vast loneliness of space and the incredible relief of finally finding companionship after eons of searching. "I understand now," the last voice said. "I have been feeding wrong all this time. I was trying to swallow connection, but connection cannot be swallowed. It must be shared." Hyun smiled, tears of relief flowing down her face. "Does this mean you won't eat Earth?" The creature's response filled her with hope. "Small friend Hyun, I will never eat another world. You have fed me something better than planets. You have fed me friendship. Now I must learn how to return this gift to the worlds I can still save." The last voice had stopped being a destroyer. Now it wanted to become a protector, and it all started because one human decided to feed a hungry cosmic lion with compassion instead of fear. The transformation of the last voice was visible even from the new soul. The cosmic entity's chaotic energy had settled into smooth, flowing patterns. Its mane no longer writhed with desperate hunger, but moved like gentle streams of starlight. Captain Lee and his crew watched in amazement as their sensors recorded the change. "It's actually happening," whispered Sue. "The creature is becoming calm." But the most dramatic change was yet to come. As Dr. Hyun sat in her small shuttle, still, connected mentally to the ancient being, she felt its consciousness focusing in a way it never had before. For the first time in thousands of years, the last voice was truly present in the moment, instead of lost in memories of what it had lost. The cosmic entity turned its massive head toward Hyun's shuttle. Its eyes, which had burned like twin suns, now glowed with the warm light of a hearth fire. When it spoke, its mental voice was clearer and more focused than it had ever been. "Small friend Hyun, you have given me something I had forgotten could exist, but I must understand something that confuses me greatly." "What is it?" Hyun asked. The last voice was quiet for a moment, gathering its thoughts. When it spoke again, the question carried the weight of eons of wondering. Why? The single word contained layers of meaning that flowed between their connected minds. Why had she approached when others fled? Why had she offered friendship to something that destroyed worlds? Why had humans chosen understanding over fear? Why had she been willing to risk her life for a being that could have consumed her entire species? Hyun felt the depth of the creature's confusion. In all its travels across the galaxy, it had never encountered behavior like this. Every other species had responded to its presence with terror, anger, or desperate attempts at bargaining. None had ever simply tried to help. "Why do you feed the hungry when you could ignore them?" the last voice continued. "Why do you care for the injured when they cannot repay you? Why do you offer friendship to something dangerous when safety would come from distance? I have observed thousands of civilizations, and none have behaved as humans do. I must understand. What makes you different?" Hyun considered the question carefully. How could she explain something that seemed so natural to her that she had never really thought about it before? "It's just who we are," she said finally. "When humans see something that needs help, we help. When we see something alone, we offer company. When we see something hurt, we try to heal it. We don't do it for rewards or because we expect something in return. We do it because it feels right." "But I am not a small creature that needs help," the last voice protested. "I am vast and powerful. I have destroyed entire worlds. Logic suggests you should fear me, not care for me. Size doesn't matter, Hyun replied. Power doesn't matter. What matters is need. You were lonely and hungry for connection. You were lost and searching for something you couldn't find. That made you something that needed help, regardless of how big or powerful you are. She shared more memories with the creature. She showed it humans caring for massive whales trapped in fishing nets even though the whales could easily hurt them. She showed it people risking their lives to save bears and wolves, predators that could kill them. She showed it her own grandmother, who fed stray dogs even after one had bitten her, because she could see they were hungry and afraid. We have a saying, Hyun projected. We say that love is not about finding someone perfect. It's about seeing someone imperfect and choosing to care anyway. You weren't perfect. You had done terrible things, but you were suffering, and that was enough for us to want to help. The last voice absorbed these concepts, trying to understand a way of thinking completely alien to its experience. In my home galaxy, we shared consciousness completely. We helped each other because we were all part of the same greater mind. But humans help beings who are completely separate from themselves. You gain nothing from helping me. In fact, you risk everything. This makes no logical sense. Love rarely makes logical sense, Hyun laughed. If we only helped people who were exactly like us or only cared for things that could help us back, the universe would be a much lonelier place. We help because it's the right thing to do, not because it benefits us. She paused, thinking of how to explain something so fundamental to human nature. Do you know why humans first started exploring space? She asked. To find resources? To claim territory? Those came later, Hyun said. We started exploring space because we looked up at the stars and wondered if there was anyone out there who might be alone. We wanted to find others, not to conquer them, but to say hello, to let them know they weren't the only ones in the universe. The last voice was silent for a long time, processing this information. When it spoke again, its mental voice was filled with wonder. You mean humans left their safe world and traveled into dangerous space not for profit or expansion, but simply to offer companionship to unknown beings? That's part of it, yes. We're explorers because we're curious, but we're also travelers because we care. Every time we send signals into space, we're essentially saying, hello universe, if anyone out there is listening, you're not alone. The cosmic entity's form shimmered as it processed these revelations. I have been wrong about the nature of intelligence. I believed that survival required either domination or absorption. I thought beings could only cooperate when they shared the same essential nature. But humans prove that different beings can choose to care for each other simply because caring is good. Now you understand, Hyun said softly. I understand your actions, the last voice replied. But I still do not understand how you developed this way of being. What created a species that feeds strangers and befriends enemies? Hyun thought about human history, about the long path that had led to this moment. Maybe it's because we started as weak creatures on a dangerous world. We survived not because we were the strongest or fastest, but because we learned to work together. We discovered that taking care of each other made all of us stronger. She shared images of human evolution, showing how cooperation had allowed them to thrive. She showed the last voice how humans had always been a species that adopted outsiders, that formed communities with anyone willing to contribute, that found strength in diversity rather than uniformity. We learned that the universe is vast and dangerous, but it's less scary when we face it together. So we keep looking for others, to join our family. That's what we're offering you now. Not absorption into our species, but acceptance into our community of chosen companions. The last voice finally understood. It had spent thousands of years searching for beings exactly like its lost family. But humans were offering something different and perhaps better. Acceptance for what it was, not what it used to be. You would truly accept me as part of your community. Even knowing what I have done, everyone deserves a chance to change, Hyun said. Everyone deserves a chance to be better than they were before. If you want to stop destroying and start protecting, then yes, we would be honored to call you family. The cosmic entity's response would change the course of galactic history forever. The last voice made a decision that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. As Dr. Hyun waited in her small shuttle, the cosmic entity's voice filled her mind with gentle warmth. Small friend Hyun, I accept your offer of family, but I wish to make an offer in return. You have taught me that true connection comes from choice and care, not consumption. Allow me to learn how to be part of your community. Allow me to protect the worlds I once threatened. The transformation was immediate and visible. The last voice's cosmic form stabilized completely, its chaotic energy patterns becoming as steady as a beating heart. The creature that had once wandered the galaxy in desperate hunger now radiated the calm contentment of someone who had finally found home. Hyun's radio crackled with excited voices from the new soul. Hyun, we're reading massive changes in the entity's energy signature, Jin reported. It's like it's becoming a completely different kind of being. Because it is, Hyun replied, tears of joy streaming down her face. It's becoming our friend. The news spread quickly through human space and beyond. The creature that had destroyed 3 worlds was now offering to protect countless others. But the galaxy's response was mixed. Many species remained terrified, unable to believe that such a powerful destroyer could truly change. Dr. Hyun returned to the new soul and immediately began working with Earth Command to establish formal contact protocols. If the last voice was going to join galactic civilization, there needed to be rules and structures to make it work. The first challenge was practical. How do you house a creature the size of a small moon? The answer came from an unexpected source. The last voice itself suggested positioning near Jupiter, where its gravitational influence would be balanced by the giant planet's mass. I have spent so long wandering, the entity explained during one of their regular communication sessions. It would be pleasant to have a permanent address. Jin led the engineering team that designed the first contact stations. These were small platforms that could orbit safely near the last voice, allowing humans to visit regularly for cultural exchange and what they came to call friendship feeding. The friendship feeding sessions were unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of consuming civilizations, the last voice now received sustenance from willing volunteers who shared their experiences, emotions, and memories. The process left both humans and the cosmic entity enriched rather than diminished. Dr. Nari arrived from Earth to establish the psychological protocols for these sessions. She worked with volunteers to ensure that sharing consciousness with the last voice was safe and meaningful for everyone involved. It's remarkable, she reported to Earth Command. The volunteers described feeling connected to something vast and ancient, but also deeply kind. Many say it's the most profound experience of their lives. As word spread, other species began to show interest. The Altarians were the first non-human species to request a formal meeting with the last voice. Their delegation was nervous but curious as they approached the contact station near Jupiter. Ambassador Kale of the Altarians had expected to meet with human representatives first. Instead, she found herself in direct communication with the cosmic entity itself. Welcome, small flying ones, the last voice greeted them. Hyun has taught me that friendship can exist between very different beings. I would be honored to learn about your people. The meeting was a success. The Altarians left with assurances that the last voice meant no harm to their worlds. More importantly, they carried with them an invitation to join the growing community around humanity's cosmic friend. Within months, the Jupiter system became the most diverse cultural center in the galaxy. Species that had never cooperated before found common ground in their fascination with the transformed cosmic entity. The last voice proved to be an invaluable member of the galactic community. Its vast knowledge helped solve scientific puzzles that had stumped researchers for centuries. Its cosmic senses could detect dangers from across the galaxy, providing early warning for everything from asteroid impacts to solar flares. But perhaps most importantly, it became a symbol of hope. If something as destructive as the World Eater could change and become a protector, then perhaps any conflict could be resolved through understanding and compassion. Captain Lee, now promoted to Admiral of the Jupiter Contact Fleet, often reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, we thought that thing was going to end civilization. Now my daughter wants to be a cosmic diplomat when she grows up. The first annual Friendship Festival was held exactly 1 year after the Last Voice's transformation. Representatives from 47 different species gathered near Jupiter to celebrate the power of connection over conquest. Dr. Lione, now serving as the first director of cosmic relations, stood on the main observation deck of Contact Station Alpha. Through the transparent walls, she could see the Last Voice in all its glory. No longer a terrifying destroyer, but a gentle giant surrounded by friends. Children from a dozen different species played in the station's recreation areas, completely unafraid of the cosmic entity that had once been the galaxy's greatest threat. To them, it was simply Uncle Voice, the big friendly creature that told amazing stories about distant stars. "It's hard to believe this all started because you decided to feed a hungry monster," said Sue, who now served as the station's chief communications officer. "It wasn't a monster," Lione corrected gently. "It was just lost and looking for home. We all need to eat. We all need companionship. The Last Voice was no different from any stray we might find on the street. It just happened to be cosmic-sized." If hearing their conversation, the Last Voice's mental voice touched both their minds with warm affection. "Friend Lione speaks truth. I was indeed lost, wandering in darkness and consuming others in my desperation for connection. But you showed me that hunger is not about taking everything, but about sharing what you have. You taught me that the deepest need is not for possession, but for belonging." A young Altarian child approached the observation window, pressing her small hands against the transparent surface. The Last Voice gently moved one of its cosmic tendrils close to the window, creating the illusion that the child was touching something vast and wonderful. "Uncle Voice," the child asked through the communication system, "will you tell us the story about the galaxy where it rains music?" "Of course, small one," the Last Voice replied with obvious pleasure. "Gather the other children and I will share the memory of the melodic nebula, where the stars themselves sing lullabies." Dr. Lione watched the scene with deep satisfaction. This was what humanity did best. They didn't just explore the universe, they made it more welcoming for everyone they met. The galaxy was a less lonely place now, thanks to one woman's decision to feed a cosmic predator with compassion instead of fear. The Last Voice had learned that true strength came not from consuming others, but from being part of something larger than yourself. And in return, it had taught the galaxy that no one, no matter how different or dangerous they might seem, was beyond the reach of friendship. In the end, the most powerful force in the universe was not gravity or nuclear fusion or cosmic radiation. It was the simple human belief that everyone deserved to be cared for, everyone deserved to belong, and everyone deserved a second chance to be better than they were before. The Last Voice was no longer the last of anything. It had become the first of something new. A cosmic guardian born from the marriage of alien power and human compassion. And across the galaxy, on worlds that had once trembled in fear, children fell asleep to bedtime stories told by the gentle giant who had learned that the greatest hunger of all was the hunger for love.